And that is another guy that we have talked about for years, Ethan. I saw him at Media Day today. We will be doing a Media Day recap 2 weeks from now, believe it or not, because we're just trying to fit it into our schedules over here. But Keldon Johnson is the next on the list, Ethan. At Media Day today, he said, I can't believe I'm one of the older guys. And he's in year 7. He was wearing a cowboy hat. It's just, I mean, I remember, dude, I literally remember playing 2K Rebuilds before Keldon got drafted and like drafting him, you know what I mean, in player or user created draft classes like back in like 2018 and 2017. So it's wild to see him now in year 7 in San Antonio. Obviously, there's so much context to Keldon Johnson, Ethan. I'm going to go ahead and dish it to you when it comes to this season. You see the stats on the screen. We have his whole career leading up to 22 points in 2022, 2023, and now he's back down at 12 points after last season. Definitely one of the more polarizing players on the roster, but I don't think he's very polarizing to the Spurs, or they wouldn't have kept him around as long as they did.
Right. Yeah. And this is another guy that we've really grown up with. And if you've watched SSPN since the beginning, you know that we've been fans of Keldon, since the beginning. Kind of an up and down career, honestly. And I think the stats really prove that. Kind of a peak and then a decline. I'm expecting a comeback from Keldon Johnson. Not in like a crazy way. I don't think he's going to get back to 20 points plus. I think honestly between 12 and 15 is likely where he will be. But I'm more so saying in terms of being a connective piece offensively. I think he's been lost the past couple of years with his role changing, trying to fit in next to Wemby, then fit in next to De'Aaron and Stephon, and similar issues to Devin Vassell. But I think Keldon is kind of a year ahead of Devin in that way. So this is kind of his prove it year, which is why I'm betting that he will prove it, because he is so important to us intangibly as a leader in the locker room and as an energy guy, constantly being like, he really embodies Spurs culture in many ways, Jude. And so I really want him to be successful. So maybe I am being a little bit biased, but I think that he will jump back up to 35+% from deep and kind of understand his role a little bit better. Defensively, we all know that he's not great. Last year, I think he did make marginal improvements, but that's never been a strength of his game. But I think getting to the rim, kind of creating for others, and then just being a little bit more consistent in terms of shooting from deep would be a perfect season for Keldon Johnson.
Completely agree, man. A lot of the stuff that you just mentioned is what I had written down. Again, because we've seen so much of Keldon, man. Not a ton that I had written down here either. The first thing I had was consistency in his offensive role.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned him defensively. He gives effort. I think that he's done a better job of getting in his stance, but just objectively, in the 7 years of his career, he has gotten beat off the dribble. Again, I don't think he's like every single time, he's just going to get beat off the dribble. He definitely can, put his chest into guys at the rim and force some misses sometimes. But there's also times where he just gets blown by too. So I want to acknowledge that. And again, that kind of goes back to Harrison, dude. And this is year 2 with Harrison. Hopefully after this offseason, he can learn some things from him just IQ wise and staying in front of guys. Because I think, again, Harrison is similar to him in the way that like defense isn't his natural skill, but just by being, having a high IQ, that can make you a better defender. Again,
Right.
There's still times where both of those guys are going to get got, but if he can just have a little bit more defensive awareness, like literally the 2K rating, I think that would help a lot of different things for Keldon, despite, where his weaknesses are always going to be on that side of the court. So that's why, again, I said consistency in his offensive role, because defensively, we just want him to get effort and try hard. I mean, that's really where I'm at with it. And again, you laid out everything that's kind of happened in his career. I think last year, and really this kind of goes back to the end of the season before last year as well. He's a 6-man energy juice type guy off the bench. Like that's what he is on this Spurs team under Victor Wembanyama. Maybe he moves to a team later and turns into something else, but on this roster, that's what he's going to be moving forward. And as much as we saw inconsistency last season, there was like, hey, you're going to come off the bench the whole year. So when it's this season, especially when you factor in the Wemby injuries and as well as like the strong end to the year that he had, on top of all the intangibles in the locker room stuff that we've talked about for years with him, and again, are one of the main reasons why the Spurs probably still have him around, we're going to need to see consistency in that offensive role night in and night out. You know, we can't have the offers where we're getting paid 17.5 million and we're almost 26. By mid-season, he will be 26. His birthday's coming up. Shout out Keldon, 12 days away. Birthday
Big
Keldon.
time.
Birthday Keldon incoming, Ethan. Like you said, he's going to turn up. I guess that's every season, though, if his birthday's in October.
Yeah, honestly.
Anyways, but to get back to the overall point, we just need him to provide juice and energy off the bench, and we need him to just be the same thing every night. I understand there's going to be nights where guys have bad shooting nights, and maybe like a Keldon or a Devin could go for 20 and fill in for guys that aren't shooting well elsewhere. But 90% of the time, we don't need him to score 20 points now at this point. I think we just need him to fight hard on the rebounds, run hard in transition, and just like have energy putbacks, catch lobs. And then the last thing I have written down offensively for him is, of course, catch and shoot consistency, which that's been a question for him his entire career. So honestly, I'm not going to bet on the catch and shoot consistency, but if it can get better, then that would be a big step for him moving forward. And honestly, that's what the team needs as well. And then the last thing I had written down was defensive consistency and man-to-man and rotations. But honestly, I agree with you there. I think just improving his IQ and awareness is probably the best we're going to get at this point.
Agreed.
Last thing I'll say with all those criticisms, again, Keldon Johnson could probably school me in a defensive boot camp. So
100%.
These are just us talking as a podcast. Totally respect what all these guys do and their skill. But any final thoughts on Keldon, Ethan?
No, sir.